Assalamu alaikum. This is Layla Abdullah-Poulos, and welcome to NbA Muslims Authors Speak. You get to hear me review the books. Now you get a chance to meet some of the authors, and I do it every single time. Everybody knows it. It does never does happen that way. That's what editing is for. So
right.
now's an opportunity for readers to listen to the authors to get to know them better. And the author to grace us with her presence today is Papatia Feauxzar. Again, because you were the first Indian Muslim.
Alhamdulillah, mashallah.
But now readers get to see your beautiful face. That's so much.
Subhanallah. Alhamdulillah. Okay. I'm happy to show it.
You were anonymous for a long time. And the big news last year is when you came out. It's like, this is who I am and everything like that, which I thought was fabulous. So I'm so glad to see your beautiful face, and I'm sure readers are.
Alhamdulillah, now, thank you.
Papatia Feauxzar is a professional accountant and has become widely known for her prolific fiction. She's the author of YA and children's books, but it is her adult Muslim novels that stirred conversations about love and romance in American Muslim culture. Yes, you did, girl.
That's true.
Djarabi collection features Muslim characters that navigate through marital love and intimacy. Some Muslims express apprehension about the erotic scenes contained in the novels. However, Feauxzar asserts that she includes erotic content and promotes healthy, halal love, sexual interactions between spouses. However, today we're going to be talking about her book, What Am I? Which the topic is interracial Muslim identities. A Muslim child who is the result of an interracial marriage. So I'm so glad to be able to speak about that with you today, because I am in an interracial interracial marriage now for 27 years, I think. Yes, 2018. So it's going on 27 years. And we have 6 children and who have to navigate through that all the time. And I was so happy when I saw that book, because when my older ones were young, there wasn't a book like this in a Muslim context. Okay, I mean, there were interracial books on interracial identities for children, but not in a Muslim context. So yours is really the first one that came out. You're the first one that came out with that, and I think that that is so wonderful that you did. Can you share your motivations for deciding to focus on interracial identities?
Yes, Auzubillahi minash shaitani rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Papatia Feauxzar, thank you for inviting me here. I wrote this book, What Am I? Also, because I'm also in an interracial marriage. My husband is Turkish, and originally I'm from West Africa, especially the Ivory Coast. Now I'm a U.S. citizen. So I have a mixed child who is going 4. But before I was married, people had their opinion, on mixed marriages, non-Muslim and Muslims alike. They'll tell me things like, be careful if you marry and your child's going to have issues in the United States. I'm like, what are you talking about? I never heard such a thing. Because back home in Africa, where I'm from originally, mixed people don't have any issues, actually. A lot of them actually are arrogant because they have lighter skin. So because, they feel superior to black people, to other people.
That's an issue.
They have like, a superiority complex. They feel like they look so much better than people who have a darker skin. And I never felt inferior to that, because I always felt I look good. Maybe I was arrogant too, but anyway. But yeah, so when I heard that, I thought it was weird that, a mixed person with issues. So I did research.
I think
it's like, they're not really feel so black, and they're in the middle. Mixed. To that level where people start asking him crazy questions like, what are you, or what race are you? I need to teach him who he is, what he is. And because other people, they don't teach their children to be colorblind. So I'm not going to teach my son to be colorblind. I'm going to teach him, hey, you are different, but at the same time, that does not give you the right to discriminate people. You need to accept people with their differences. So that's what I did. I'm trying to anticipate the relationship because I don't want the world to mess him up, you know. So I was like, you know, I'm like, I don't want the world to mess him up. He needs to know what it is. He needs to embrace his heritage. He needs to know what it is and be proud of who he is. Mm-hmm. So that's the main reason behind me writing this book, because I wanted, because my family is actually the first user of that book, and I know that there are many people out there who find that book useful, inshallah.
Well,
Fierce approach to explain that. Okay, I hope that answered your questions.
It did. I particularly like the fact that you use the term "what am I?" Okay. Which I know quite a few people will probably say, well, it should be who am I, because it's the person. But the reality is that children are not asked that. People with multiracial backgrounds are not asked it in that context. Like, who are you? No, it's what are you? You're some kind of thing. Like, you're some kind of weird thing, apparitional type of racial, like a racial apparition. And so, and it's very intrusive, I think. Kind of like, demand that people outlie in front of you exactly how they identify themselves, and it's very, very tricky across the board. I recently had a little thing with someone who was actually, ironically enough, interracial. I'm not interracial, and it was about a young woman it was a young author, and she is half South Asian and half African American. And
I know where that's going.
Yeah, so I'm not going to mention any names. Beautiful young lady. And the reality is that a lot of people kind of like just really identify with her South Asian identity. Okay. And when she not really revealed, because there were quite a few people who knew. But when it was like really put out there and verified that she also was African American, you know, someone was like, well, I thought she was this and not that. And it's just like, well, why can't she be both, first of all? But the whole other thing is that, why is it that someone that has layers of identities has to constantly assert every identity all the time for people? It's just, sometimes it doesn't work that way. Sometimes one identity overrides the other. And it's just like, where the parents are located socially, the way the parents relate the child's identities to them, and the way society treats the children can also play a huge role, because my children are actually multi-racial, and so like there's some of my kids identify specifically as Black. Okay. Some of my kids are like, it's nobody's business. Figure it out for themselves. I am who I am, type of thing. Can you hold on one moment, please? You see how this are? This is a multiracial kids. This is what happens. Excuse me.
It's society that wants you to choose, because you can identify with many things. You know, it's so you cannot. You know, there's no law out there that says, you know, to pick a side. And, you know, sometimes people don't want to pick a side. You know, you want to be in the middle. And, you know, it's hard. It's hard sometimes for the mixed people. It's also hard also on the interracial couple, because it's like the child is tugged in one direction. Is it going to be on my side, or is it going to be on your side? So it's kind of a difficult situation, you know.
It can be a difficult situation, especially if socially there is this attempt to kind of like force an identity on the child. And it may or may not be by the parents. Sometimes it's by the parents. You know, there may be an instance where a parent just really wants their child to identify with their background, and despite the love that they have for their spouse, they're not really feeling that child identifying with any other background but theirs. And it's not so much that it may be notions of superiority. It's just that we're human beings, and that's the way that we act. That's true. That's true. This is what I want my child to identify with. Sometimes the environment around them affects it. You know, one of the things that I realized early on was that when my children, my children experienced different life differently when it was just me or just my husband. And often, when from the time that they were young, my husband's very popular in the community, and so people are like, "Oh, well, your kids and they're beautiful and they're wonderful, and oh, why don't we have a play date and everything?" But when their black mother
Mm-hmm.
came to drop them off, then it was like that was the last play date that the kids had. Okay,
Right.
with them.
It's yeah, that happened.
Because of the anti-blackness that happens in it,
Yeah.
and so that's another layer. It could definitely be a matter of, depending on the the layers of identity, you end up, your children end up being affected by it.
Right.
And I'm sorry, anti-blackness is not something that you can wipe away or wash away, and there's not enough privilege in the world to across the board protect your child from it. And so I think that's one of the things that, parents need to kind of like understand that as well. It's something that my husband had to understand early on as someone that's not black. And so I think that that's one of the things that parents have to understand. So what kind of biases do interracial children face? Is it all the same, or are there some nuance to the type of bias that interracial children face?
In my experience, it differs. It's a little different. I feel like a lot of times the children themselves don't discriminate while they're playing. It's only the mother come, like you said, the mother comes in the picture, then you see attitude changes. Like the mom will start looking at you a funny way, or they'll tell the children, "Hey, come here," or "Let's go home," or that's when they start acting funny. But the children themselves, they usually don't. They will probably violate your privacy, your child privacy. Oh, you're so cute, and start touching the hair or start giving kisses, taking pictures. No, children usually then don't really discriminate. They're taught by their parents to discriminate. See the difference, like, hey, she doesn't look like us, and yeah, we don't really fancy that kind. Okay, let's go. My son hasn't anything like that. It's me actually. When people see me, then they start acting a different way, and I'm like, you know what? I don't know. I don't need this. I don't need this, and we're out of here. Yeah. So
they're cool with your son, but they're not cool with you.
No.
And that's your son is young. Your son is young.
Yeah, it's like he's beautiful, mashallah. I made him beautiful. I'm beautiful.
He is gorgeous.
But but the thing is, like I said, it's the anti-blackness that people use. That you feel it. You feel it in their glances. You feel it in the way they act. A lot of it is non-vocal. A lot of it is non-vocal. A lot of it is those cues that you pick up on. And then you know what? I don't need this.
And then you're kind of stuck as a parent. Because the other parents are acting a certain way. Like you said, a lot of times nonverbal cues. Not that they're going to say, "Listen, I don't want your black child."
Exactly. A lot of it is nonverbal.
You pick it up as a parent, so you have to kind of decide.
You pick it up.
Do I end this? Okay, and or do I allow this to continue and subject myself to more racist expressions,
to this abuse and and this toxicity? I don't need that toxicity. I don't need that abuse. So I'm out of here.
It's very.
I'll see you as a stuck-up person. Yeah. Then they'll see you as a stuck-up person. Like if the husband is there, they'll probably won't act that way. They'll act all nice, But when it's only you and your son, then the true color shows. That also happens.
No, I definitely agree.
Like yeah, so when he's like standing in the picture, oh, they won't say anything. They have the biggest smile all the way here. Only you're like, oh, that's it.
Well, it's funny because that actually adds another tension layer because the spouse doesn't see it.
He doesn't see it. The spouse doesn't see it. It's these different experiences, Another thing is culture where my husband is from. How do you say that? They have the opportunity, whatever they want. They go around, see the world. Women are a little more restricted. is. It's not because of Islam. That's because the culture is. The women at home, a lot of them are not really educated, bright, so they're not really open-minded. If you're educated, you went to school for, you've seen the word, like the men, like the way we experience, this discrimination is different for men and women. Like men, they don't see it because they're more open-minded to go outside and see the word compared to their wives who didn't get a chance to go outside and see the word. So they're usually more limited, and they teach the children to act a certain way, and then their children act, will discriminate your children. So it comes from the mother, culture where my husband is from. No, I know. I mean, like I said, experiences differ because
I do.
That's my experience.
No, I totally get where you're coming from. Because without making any generalization, I have to say something honestly. As someone that has navigated through different spheres, through different Muslim cultural spheres, all right, there's some. I get where you're coming from because I've even experienced it among Africans. Oddly enough.
See, like I said, every community is different. I'm not saying that we don't do
white husband. When they see my white husband and my caramel kids.
To some extent.
But I definitely think that there are some standing cultural norms that kind of are that force this treatment of Black children and multiracial children with Black backgrounds a certain way. Okay, and the parents, the Black parent is probably going to be aware of it fairly quickly. But the non-Black parent is going to take some time and to really recognition of it. And as the children get older, it presents itself in a different way. Okay, and so that's the reason why it's like sometimes you feel like when you're Black that you're almost stuck. Okay, not in it's only negative because it's something that's forced by the racial structure of this country. And that is like this whole idea behind the one drop rule, which for some reason Muslims that are not from this from like an American background, a deep American heritage, have just really adopted full force. I find that amazing. But it's just like this whole idea that one drop of blood, okay, in the slave days, one drop of blood, you're Black, okay, and that's fairness of your complexion did not matter. And so you were treated a certain way, okay? There may have been some preferential skin tone treatment, but overall there was still like this idea that you were under the auspices of white supremacy. And I think that, unfortunately, in Muslim culture, that happens as well. So as my kids got older, then I'd see my sons criminalized, okay? And even the fairer one, okay? I have a son that's like kind of light. And even him, because they know that his mother's Black, okay? So they embrace all of those stereotypes that go with it. So if something went down at the masjid, it was automatically my Black sons and the other Black boys, okay? And it was a spectrum of dark boys to light boys. But the light boys, they knew that one of the parents was Black. Okay, and so it was like this automatic criminalization. The Daisy kids, it almost invariably it wasn't the Black kids. Okay, why? Because if you are Black in America, all right, you're navigating through that. You're a Black parent in America. You know the deal already, so you're watching your kids. Sisters are watching their kids. If they going down or anything like that. So it was almost invariably not the Black boys that were doing it. But it was the whole idea that they have a Black parent. So at least in my experience, this is like automatic criminalization. My husband had to come to grasp with that because he didn't see that. He didn't until it presented itself through his kids. He didn't see it. He didn't understand it, because a lot of times, again, if it's not something that's directly affecting your life, that has not directly affected your life, you don't see it. This is the reason why we have this issue with whites not being able to see their placement in the racial structure, and how it privileges them, and how they themselves may be the proponents of some really racist stuff. Okay, they just don't see it.
Yeah, like part of the problem, but they don't know it.
They don't know it, and I think the bigger problem is that once it's revealed to them, they can't handle it. To be quite honest,
it's hard, and
it's hard. It's hard to kind of like
the discussion gets really heated. I'm not gonna lie. It gets really heated. It takes a lot of control.
I think especially between
to understand.
I think especially it's hard. Okay. Did you ever get the why is it always about race? I got that. I got that once. I got that once early on.
No. Can you repeat it?
I got that. I got it once. Why is it always
I didn't hear
about
what
race?
you said. Yes, I got that.
They don't see it. That's the thing. They don't see it. And so and to them, it's their child. This is their child. This is their child, and they figure that they can encapsulate and protect that child from all of this. Okay. Yeah. And blind the child to all of this. And they may be able to a certain extent, but not in totality, because sooner or later society is going to come through and is going to present that child with a racial dilemma. And one of them is that what am I? And I
go ahead.
I like that the book centered a little bit more of the parents and how the parents were going to deal with answering that question. How do parents answer that question? What am I? What are some of the things that parents can do to be able to effectively answer that question? Because the first thing that some parents may want to do is just like kind of shut that question down, because it's a complex one. So what are some of the things that parents can do thinking about how, when their child comes to them and asks, what am
I? And I had to think about it, and I'm like, how am I gonna portray that in her book for a little boy to understand? So the way I did in the book is by saying that we call ourselves different. Like Adi, if my son was born in Africa and he was mixed like that, we would have called him something else. If he were born in Brazil, they would have called something else. It's like I think that as a parent, to the child, that there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. But, this was going to happen and we were ready for it. And in a word, people there are people that looks just like you in other places. The only difference is you were born in the United States. So this is how, you can call yourself. Or you are multiracial. If you were in Cuba, you're Afro-Cuban. If you're in Brazil, you're Afro-Brazilian. If you're in Africa, you're Métis or you're Africans. It's like you have to teach child, that word we'll call him a different things, and it doesn't mean that they are different. That just means that they're one in a different place. You're all the same people. But I feel like that's just a way to start the discussion. There's more to it. I think every, like, each parent in a relationship, like, teach the child their background, their heritage. Like me, I'm teaching my son where I'm from. He needs to know where I'm from. He needs to know what my people look like. My aunt, and also, my husband does what he can. My husband only speaks Turkish to my son, and I speak English, French. I speak all the language to him, and I try to make him aware of his heritage, make him aware of where he comes from. So I think that's the main thing for you. For your children to know what they are, to not be affected by what society thinks of them, you need to teach them where they come from. What I'm saying, like the history of it. You need to expose them to more, like me, like I try to expose my son to more African material, more African American material. So I think we have to teach them through books that speak, not whitewash books or revision books or whatever.
I've got, because you just said something really, really interesting, and this discussion is going to go off just a little bit, but I think that Black and African American Muslims would appreciate this, and I was going to try and avoid it, but I think that we just really need to do this. And that is, you said that you teach your son history, Black history, and African American history. Okay. Do you anticipate, and would you be okay with your son kind of considering himself African American, even though culturally he isn't African American? Because a lot of times I see one thing that's happening, and it happened with Caribbean Americans a lot, and that is that, African American culture is a very distinct culture. Okay. So it is a culture that extends from the enslavement of Africans in the United States. So in the United States, African American culture is a very distinctive culture, okay, with a rich tradition of resistance and art and artistry and all kinds of things, okay? And what has happened over time for people from Blacks from the diaspora, and I know you don't really like that term, African diaspora.
I don't.
I don't have a better one, so just forgive me. Is that there's an opportunity, I think, a few generations in to kind of start to identify as African American. Okay. Now, do you anticipate that for your son? Would you be okay with that? Or what would you do to kind of just like really make that distinction between the fact that he's not?
Yeah, see, me at the beginning, when I first came, I had a lot of mixed feeling calling myself an African American. After reading more, doing my own research on American history, I realized that I'm really not something else. I am African American. Between you and me is that your ancestor came before, and I'm just coming now. And if it wasn't for my African, and the slave trade, you guys wouldn't be here too, because we have also handled what happened. You cannot just say that, hey, slavers took all the African out of Africa. Feel by themselves. We sold them out. You understand? So what I'm saying is, me, when I see it, is my son is African American. He was born here. He needs to know the history. He needs to know that the people that were slaves were part of his, that were his people too. Them out of Africa. You understand? So we are the same people. For me, we are the same people. He needs to know what happened when they were sold out of Africa and they started a new history here. So he needs to know that history too. I don't know. Maybe you don't agree, but I feel like. But I feel like it's not just African. He's African American. He was.
I appreciate where you're coming from, and I can understand it somewhat, and I just would like for you to take this into consideration. All right, you were not enslaved.
No, we're not.
Your identity was not stripped away from you completely, so that you had to develop a complete culture on your own. Okay, so you're not African American because of a very distinctive culture. And it happened to us. It definitely happened to us. Now I know that there's a tendency for an umbrella, because at the end of the day, this is where it gets hairy. All right. There's also this notions of not being that regular Black African Americans that Africans have and Caribbean Americans have. Okay. There is this allergy to African Americans that exists among people from Africa and people from the Caribbean. And it's just like, and a lot of them have been set up in competition with us. Okay. And that's the white society doing that. Some of it is just I'm going for my thing, but the white society has set up a competition between African Americans and non-African American Blacks, wherein they favor non-African American Blacks and say, you're better than these black African Americans from this.
It's true. That's the reason I shift my mind. You don't agree that my ancestors were not enslaved, but I feel like we were the same people. If it wasn't for that trade, we are the same people.
We're the same people, but just like people.
That's the reason I feel like,
But I don't try to say that. I'm not going to say I'm Cote d'Ivoire. I'm not going to say I'm Nigerian.
No.
I'm not going to say that.
I understand what you're saying.
I'm not going to say that. I think that Africans and Caribbean Americans should not say I'm African American and act like that is not a very distinctive culture, because what it does is it's a very disrespectful erasure of a strong culture that honestly has been the part, it played such a major role in the ability for everyone to be here in the first place. Okay, and there's just really there's just really this anti African American sentiment among people that come here and try to act like, well, they're superior and everything like that. But there's layers to that, and you've never done that. Okay, so just let everyone know that you've never done it. But there's layers to, that it exists though.
Yeah, it is there. But like you said, it's the system that divide us, that make us compete with each other. You understand?
Yeah,
like they'll say, hey, you are different. Yeah, that's the reason, I have come to say, you know what? I don't want to be, that happens a lot. Like when I was going to college, there was an African association, and there was also a Caribbean association, and there was also an association just for Black African American that were born here. So it's like a very different group, but we're kind of the same people. You understand? And I'm like, dividing us. Why don't we understand that your culture? I don't disrespect what you've been through. I feel like sometimes the divisions are necessary. We need to know, hey, but I didn't go through what happened, but I'm still African American. You understand? It's like, I think we all need to come some. I understand. Like we all need to have a convention and like settle our differences, but not deny our background. You understand?
So, because I've been looking too much at and I think it's really like millennial African descent people. Like there's like this small little group of people that are just really, they do not like African Americans. They don't want us wearing their garments, this and this and this, that and that and that. They make that distinction. And I think that one of the things is that when it's like I'm African American, that means a very specific thing. I've had a white Moroccan look at me and say, I'm African American. And I said, how are you African American? And she said, well, I was born in Africa. And I'm just
no, that's not what it means.
Are you kidding me?
No, because
I think that we can appreciate that we have subcultures and we have these complex
ideas. I think it's subculture because me, a long time when people ask me when you become an American, will you call yourself African American? I used to say no. Ivorian African American. You understand? Because I feel like that background, Ivorian heritage is part of me, because seriously, I'm not really African American. I decided to associate with African American, but I'm Ivorian African American. Like, some people would say I'm Ghanaian African American. I'm like, Korean African whatever. Like, for a long time I denied. I'm like, no, I'm African and American. It's different than African American. So for a long time I said that. A long time I said I'm African and American. I'm not African American because it's different. They have a different, so. But after, for a long, after I did my research and I came to realize, what? It's the people who don't like us that be dividing us. Maybe it's better for me to just associate with the African American. We are the same people. Oh, my camera just fell. I got too excited.
I think at this point, it's not the people that's dividing so much. I think that when we're talking about the identity of people whose foundational identities have been stripped from them, and they develop this culture, and they've named it. Okay, when it's those people saying to you, "Listen, this is what has happened to us, and this is our culture, and this is what we've named our culture," and they ask you to pull back on utilizing the name for their culture. Okay, I don't think that it's a matter of division. I think that it's a matter of cultural respect.
Well, that's
because so much has been taken from us. And, I think it also hurts a little bit more when it's Black people doing it to you. I mean, we can call ourselves Black Americans. We can call ourselves Black Muslims. But, African American Muslims, that is a very distinctive culture. I mean, when you're talking about a group of people that reconnected with a religion that they're enslaved forefathers, it was snatched away from them, and they refound it, okay, centuries later, and developed a liberation movement centered around it, centered around this dean and their racial identity. That's something that's very distinctively happened here among African American Muslims. So when you say African American Muslims, you're talking about very distinctive people. If you're saying Black Muslims, that is that great, awesome, dynamic, rich culture where it's just like, listen, yeah, there's African Americans, and then we got those Caribbean Americans, you know, from Trinidad and everything. They're coming up here, and then we got the people from from Africa. They're coming over here, and we making this culture light up.
It's like, you know, I understand what you're saying. Like African American are more positive about work.
We do some very phenomenal things. Black Muslims do some very phenomenal things in this culture, and I think it's because we have so many different rich heritages that that feed into this Black Muslim culture. That makes it an amazing culture.
Dynamic, makes it huge dynamic
stuff that it's just like I'm sorry, non-Black Muslims is like, you know, wait a second, why aren't y'all doing this too? When you look at the art, it's like amazing. I mean, Black Muslims, when you want to talk about romance in an American context, okay, and this whole idea of romance as a genre and Muslim romance as a genre, that's Black Muslims, okay? That's Black Muslims that came out and said, you know, we're gonna write about this way, and we have all of these different, and it's African American, and there's African Muslims that kind of like writing in this genre, in this rich genre, and it's like it's not happening anywhere else. We're doing it, and it's not happening anywhere else. So it's just like, that's what I mean. It's like Black Muslim culture is a phenomenal culture. It's a phenomenal cultural experience, and it includes the group of Muslims that are foundational in having this religion established as a religion here in the United States. It's African American Muslims that did that. It's like African American Muslims and Caribbean Muslims and African Muslims came in and was just like, listen, this is who we are. This is what we do. And you may not like us, but somebody, who cares?
Let's do it.
So that's the reason why I'm just like, you know, just like out of respect, it's like African American Muslim culture is a very distinctive culture. African American culture is a very distinctive culture.
Yeah.
And I think that Black Muslim culture is an amalgamation of all these rich cultures, and we're doing some amazing stuff. Okay, like this book.
Yeah.
Like this book, you know? And all the like I said, you were the one that came out and said, listen, we need to kind of like examine this from a child's perspective, and how the parents are going to deal with it, and how can we give children something where the parents can read it to them and have it used as an introduction of the fact that they have all these
huge identities out there. Yeah. Because you only give only a few examples, because, you know, the book length, you cannot go over a certain amount. Yeah, but there'll be more,
right? Aren't there more coming out the box?
Yeah, many. Many, inshallah. We're working on book 2 right now, and inshallah we'll continue the series, because like you said, there are many races and ethnicities out there we need to cover.
And how like multiple identities. There's so much nuance across races, because you know, my Black and Latino child is not going to be treated the same way as someone that may be a child that may be white and Arab, okay, or white and DC. They're not going to be treated the same way. I've seen it. I've seen it. It's just like the multiple identities is not the same for every child in Muslim communities. It simply is not, and I think that it's very, very important to kind of like draw back and look at how differently children are treated because of it. I mean, even in school, you know, I actually have quite a few friends who are, there's quite a few African American women married to white men.
But it's a challenge, though. It's not easy, because, you know, we experience that discrimination firsthand. From, you know, now, because like you said, the intersections, you know, we are right there. So people think that, oh yeah, you married, there's no issue. We face a lot of issues like people don't see. It's like, in your community, if you're black, you don't interact with white people, it's fine. But if we are married to, we see it more, and we come into contact with it more.
Yeah.
And we, it's like we go through a lot of crazy mental, and stuff like that. And we have to deal with it.
Yeah. And I also think it's like a matter of culture as well and ethnicity, because I started NbA Muslims, and I focused on very specific cultures for it. Okay, because if I try to do anything beyond that, it's like when you're doing culture, when you're studying culture, first of all, there's no absolutes in culture, but also you have to kind of hone in on some stuff. And for me, I selected very distinctive backgrounds for NbA Muslims, Native Born American Muslims. Your son is an NbA Muslim. Okay, despite the fact that his parents come from immigrant backgrounds, your son is NbA Muslim in one sense, but not in the sense for this this platform, because he's not African American or European American or Latino American or Native American. So, and it was only because I can't do everybody and everything, and it's not exclusive. I interview people from outside the background all the time, but it's just like, when those cultural experiences, okay, they also have a long history of interacting with each other. All right. And so even if you're interracial, okay, like my husband and myself, we still come from this NbA background. And so that's very different than, like, say, for instance, you and your husband, where it's just like really not only interracial, but also intercultural. And it's like you have to deal with that and trying to make sure that your child has access to all the great things about your culture. And then all the other stuff comes too, and how to help him navigate through that. So I think that also comes into play, because when it comes to American NbA Muslims married to NbA Muslims of different races, okay, there's still some cultural context and cultural similarities, and that those races had opportunities to interact with each other. Some good, some really not good at all, but still it was there. So I think that becomes very, very distinctive. There's some things that kind of stay the same type of thing, and there's some familiarities. I think that there's also when you have like these really two-star cultures, people coming to two-star cultures, they have to deal with the people in those cultures, and sometimes that's not that's not a good thing. I was asked once, well, how did your husband's family welcome you? And I was like, they didn't have a problem. I was like, they didn't have a problem. Now, my family. My husband, he encountered a very different experience.
With your family?
Oh, with my family, yes. Some members of them, not all of them. Some members of them were like, "What are you doing? Why are you marrying this white man? Why are you trying to lighten up our family? Why do you hate yourself so much?"
Yeah.
So I definitely got questioned about my decision.
On both sides.
My husband's family was real cool. My husband's family was really cool.
No, what I mean, my husband's family was really cool, but at the same time, I kept wondering, so where did this woman just pop out from?
Well, I don't know, because when I first saw your face, one of the things I was like, that's why he went after. He went after that black girl. He was like, no. You can come on, let's go.
Thank you.
But we experience it as a couple. And it could be something that's inside the family, and sometimes it's really bad. And that's one of the reasons why, and I'm going to bring it up, like that whole Dean Squad video that I wrote the article on.
About.
And this idea of propping up interracial couples as like this solution to racism that's practiced by Muslims. By Muslims. And it's just like, are you kidding? Sometimes we face more racism.
No, it's not a solution. It's not a solution, No.
Well,
We face a lot more.
They came out with one couple's account. They came out one. I think they're supposed to be doing more, and I think this was more responsible. I think that I'm still not feeling their video at all. But they came out with one couple's account, and the couple was very honest. And what the Arab woman had to go through just because she loved someone that was black was horrendous. Okay, didn't keep her from her man, but it still was horrendous what she had to go through. And that's the reality. Sometimes you have to face some really bad stuff just because you happen to love someone that everyone else thinks that you shouldn't be with. And that's
exactly.
And your children are a product of that. So if you know that the culture that you're in and that your spouse is in is unwelcoming to the two of you, what are they going to do to your kids? Okay, and how do you do that?
We're gonna mess them up. That's why. But alhamdulillah, my in-laws are not. My in-laws are very nice. Alhamdulillah, my in-laws.
Well, sometimes the kids come around, and sometimes they just get it. Like they just come to terms with it. They come to grips with it. That's the best case scenario. No, my family came around and they love my husband. Okay, because they know I love him, and we're very happy, and he's made me very happy. So they appreciate that, and they actually think he's a brilliant man. But that wasn't the first impression they had. And sometimes people come around. Sometimes people don't come around, and you still have to deal with it.
Yeah, people don't. Some people don't. Yeah, I have an aunt on my side that, like I said, it's on both sides. Like my husband's family, when my husband, my father-in-law is very, very nice, but he was still shocked. He was still shocked. But he let it go. He's like, okay, as long as we're Muslim, it's fine. But on my side too, it was, some people were like, what? She from Africa to Turkey? What the? People don't understand. They're like, these people, they go anywhere. It's like, why
I want to come over your house for dinner. I want to come over your house for dinner.
Inshallah.
I get that's bread. Oh my God, I want it all. I want it all.
Alhamdulillah.
I want the whole interracial table.
Food and everything, yeah. But yeah, alhamdulillah.
So, but okay, so now those family members who have not gotten a grip on the fact that that you two are a couple and you're married, and now you have this wonderful child. Okay, has that affected the way they treated the child? Has that affected the access that you give them the child?
No, children like. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, does that affect how much access you allow them to your child? What are some of the things that like because they haven't gotten a grip of who you are as a married Muslim couple, how does that affect the relationship moving forward, especially when it comes to your child?
To be honest, because we're kind of isolated here in Texas, so you don't really have to deal with these people on a daily basis, But when a child comes and people change, they come to be a little more, have more wisdom. So that's what happened. People are like, oh, you know what? It's like, it's not the end of the world, I just accept it and move on, And since we don't have to deal with them every day.
They don't have to see them every day. Now, okay, let's step out a little bit. Non-Muslims.
Oh shoot! Oh my God.
Hey,
that's another layer.
We got to add that layer, okay? So non-Muslim, do you find that there is a different way that you handle that your child is treated by non-Muslims, or the way that you just talk about identity with your child when it comes to non-Muslims? Because now it may or may not include their Muslim identity. Is there a difference?
Well, I feel like if I'm by myself, a lot of times people will just give me with side glances. You know what I mean? But if the husband is there, oh, okay. Well, you see more nice people. But when they see the child, if they see my child, oh, then people are really happy. And I'm like, if I had a black child, would you smile to me? You understand? The fact that the child is a little mixed, alone to you. If you're by yourself, you'll be like, whatever. You understand what I'm saying? I feel like, and especially here in Texas, it's very polarized. To be honest, it's very polarized. But discrimination also in the non-Muslim community with people. Like some people will see the couple, oh, it's a beautiful couple, you guys look nice together, blah blah blah. But some people just don't like it. But look at me and be like, ugh, what the hell? Did he convert for you? I'm like, no, he was born Muslim. It's Turkish. People always ask this question. It annoys me. And I'm like, he didn't convert for me.
I was once on the bus with my
husband. I was born Muslim. Huh?
I was once on the bus with my husband. This was when we were first married, and we sat down, and he sat down, and this older white man came passing by us. And he looked and he was like, "That's disgusting."
Are you kidding?
I'm not kidding. Yeah, he actually said it. You get those questions.
If I want to say it, but you see it in their faces. A lot of times,
I wish I just saw it in their faces sometimes, though. I wish I just saw it in their faces. I get a lot of people saying things basically like like I was a charity case. He decided to marry me. So you're black and he married you anyway.
People are bad.
Excuse me. I'm an entire package. I'm sorry. He's lucky.
yeah, exactly. It's like I'll be like, I'm very like high, like
Exactly.
I'm the whole deal. Whatever. What you talking about? I'm the whole deal.
No, I think that before anyone like I brought that up because I know definitely there are microaggressions and macroaggressions that you'll experience with your child.
A lot of it.
When they see you as when they're identifiably black, okay, or at least mixed, like there's some blackness in them. Like one of my kids, his hair, no, there's no denying that that's someone that there's some ancestors in his tree, and he's perfectly cool with that. But there's just like now he is immediately identifiable as a black male and everything that comes with that in non-Muslim society. Okay, so he has to navigate through it inside of Muslim culture and then in the broader society. Like that, he's very much identifiable as a black male. Okay, and so that is something that like you can't avoid. They will treat your children a certain way. They will talk to your children a certain way, which I find outlandish. Like this whole, like they always say, "Oh, we'll talk to the children nicely" and everything like that. They don't talk to black children that way. When they think a child is black, they don't talk to black children that way. I'm talking about all of those never hit, never raise your voice, everything. White women, they will talk to your child like they will yell at them, they will screech at them, and one of them even thought she was gonna put her hands on my child. That was a mistake.
No. I'll go to jail. I'll go to jail that day because I will beat her up.
Oh yeah, she knew to draw that hair back. She knew to draw that hair back, but it was just like, but that's the idea. It's like when the child is noticeably black. Either because they see the parent, the black parent, or it's just that, they have certain racial features, that Nubian nose. Okay, that gorgeous Nubian nose. All right. Like the ancestors don't be giving that up. Quickly. You have all of these white features of that Nubian nose right in the middle. It's a trademark. Okay. The hair. Okay. A very tightly curled, coily hair. Just different markers, okay, where it's just like, oh yeah, that child that probably has a black parent or has some kind of black ethnicity somewhere. They will treat that child definitely a certain way, okay? Not everyone, okay, but enough to make it affect that child and the parent's life. It definitely happens. So this whole idea that somehow the society gets it when Muslims don't get it, that's a fallacy. because when I have to navigate and my husband has to navigate through this society with our children, we definitely see a difference in their treatment based on whether or not they're like I hate this term, but this is what we have right now, racially ambiguous. Can't stand that term. Or because, it's like you're talking about it's a race, so it's like a whole spectrum of skin tones, but racially ambiguous, or if they have something that really kind of like marks them as, yeah, this person's black. Like I have some children that can pass as like people automatically assume they're Latino, and or something else, not black. Okay, no black heritage or anything like that. But the ones that actually, because I have older kids now that actually assert their blackness, or just physically, you can tell that they have some black heritage in them. They've had to deal with a lot of stuff. They definitely have to deal with a lot of stuff. So it kind of gets hard as a parent, as a parent, to know that you're navigating through all that outside the Muslim culture. And when you come inside the Muslim culture, you got to deal with that mess too. It's like, God.
But you know what? That's the reason we have to teach our children to be great, because they cannot discriminate. Because if your child is like, smart and doing great things, it's deter them, because as that your child is doing great things. But we don't close their eyes on what, it's like we have to teach our children to be great, to go far in life, so that they cannot use the skin color against them.
They'll still do it. But they'll still
do it. But they'll do it. But you're like, you know what? I don't care. I got money. You can do what you want. I got money. That's what it is.
So from it,
it's like I don't like. You know what? I can buy you and your whole house. I don't care. So I think maybe I'm a little arrogant that way, but I feel like we teach our children to do great things, to achieve greatness.
Yeah,
people won't do anything. Yeah, people won't go after them or try to to talk to them down. We have to teach our children to be things, to go higher. We have to educate them. That's my goal. I feel like and we educate them, they can go outside and change people's minds. People won't see the color of their skin; they'll see, and they can't deny it. You cannot deny it. You witness greatness in the making. You cannot deny that. You can say, "Oh, he's black," but he's achieving greatness.
I don't think you're fully appreciating, sister, the anti-blackness in this country.
I understand. I follow you.
We had the president of the United States. I'm sorry. Okay. I hate using him as a witness.
I appreciate it. I see what you did.
Are two of the most accomplished black people in the world. Okay, two of the most accomplished black people in the world, and they still call him a coon at the end. And he's half white. And
they still do it though. They still do it, but like I said,
at the end of the day, I think that you're underestimating.
Underestimate. I feel like people still do it, but if you feel good about yourself, you're proud of yourself. You don't care about it. It's like you can do it, but you can't deny the blessings that Allah has blessed. I bestowed upon me. You can do anything.
Yeah.
All kind of things. Yeah.
But I think that when it comes to specifically Muslim culture, okay, and this whole idea of brotherhood and the wisdom of the Prophet Islam, and talking about the expectation that Muslims have in safety from another Muslim's tongue in their hand, okay, which I definitely include any kind of racial microaggressions in with that. We should be able to feel safe.
He hasn't changed.
And we don't. The fact of the matter is that we don't. You can go, and I don't think people really appreciate that. You don't know what you're getting when you go into any house of worship in the United States of America. If you're going into any mosque in the United States of America with a black face, okay, you don't know what you're going to get. All right, you don't know.
That's the reason I don't even go there. I don't go there for that reason.
With my two youngest, okay, because we did our children a disservice, our older children a disservice. I'm honest about it, because we just didn't know. And we fed into that whole idea of brotherhood and everything like that. And our children were bullied, okay, by other kids and adults, okay, in communities. And so right now with my two youngest ones, I really have just kind of like circled around them type of thing, because I don't want that type of them to be exposed to that type of emotional damage, and it associated with their dean. Because what happens is, not only do you have to deal with the discrimination and the bias, but now it's in a Muslim context, okay? And you're in one instance, this is your relationship with your Lord, and the way that you interact with your co-adherents affects the relationship with your Lord. And you're receiving these teachings, but you're treated a certain way by people who are worshiping with you. Okay. And so as a child growing up, this is what I find the most troubling. Black Muslim children, Black interracial Muslim children who have been set with those markers of Blackness have to tackle with the fact that some of the most vehement, violent racism that they're exposed to is attached to Islam by the action of Muslims who should know better. Okay? The mistreatment that they receive are by people who fast and pray and give them salam and then treat them like garbage. Okay? They will yell at them a certain way. Okay? They will feel like they did. I've had my kids slapped, okay, by Muslims. All right? I've had my kids dragged by Muslims. I've had my kids kicked by Muslims, because they felt, with looking at the fact that they knew that they were part Black, that they could treat them a certain way. Okay? And I may be as a parent defend them, okay? Because when my kid got slapped, I was in that brother section ready to throw down. Yes, angry Black woman is coming your way. All right? He punked out. But okay. So when I could do that, but the emotional trauma
damage it causes
that my child faces because they're treated a certain way by someone that is supposedly worshiping Allah with them. How does that make them in turn see the deen?
Like I said, we're Muslim, but we all don't follow the true light of Islam. It's like we
I know, but kids can't make that distinction. Young people cannot.
Yeah,
and they shouldn't have to. Honestly,
they shouldn't have to do that. It's unfortunate. Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that it happens. And with a lot of Muslims who don't act the way they're supposed to be acting. You cannot do that. You cannot just
abuse
people.
How do we keep our young children safe from that? If we know that in these houses of worship, okay, there's this type of behavior that can be emotionally and spiritually damaging. This is a form of spiritual abuse. How do we protect our children? How do we protect our children when it's happening in the Muslim schools? How do we protect our children when it's happening in the masjid Sunday school? How do we protect that from happening when the Quran teacher is clearly biased against Black children? Okay, how do we protect them from that? Because
you have more experience than that than me. Because you have a lot of children. I'll just have that one.
Well, I'm telling you right now, have the hard conversations with your husband while your son is still little. Both of you need to be keeping an eye out for it, because one of the things that he can do, okay, that you can't do, and my husband and I learned this. It took us a while, but we eventually learned this, is that he can use the privileges that he has, okay, in order to protect his children, and he may just have to do that. Okay, that's the reality of it. Inside and outside of Muslim culture, he may just have to do that. If you're sending your child to, don't go in with blinders thinking because it's a star and a crescent over that school that your son will not be exposed to bias and discrimination. Okay? Don't think because the Qari and Quran teacher recite beautifully and they can teach your child Arabic that they're not also teaching them to have a lower self-esteem because of his interracial background. Just go in knowing that your child may be exposed to that. And what are you going to
Yeah.
do if he is? And may Allah protect him and all Muslim children, because I see the damage that it does. It's very, very damaging. And it's gotten to the point where I just very much am like, I'm not sending my child to an Islamic school. I'm gonna homeschool my child because I see Islamic school is just as dangerous as public school. Little girl.
That's another reason I homeschool, because like my husband and I are very particular on the kind of books we want to expose our child to.
Yeah.
And very, very particular. Yeah. And that's another reason we really keep to ourselves, with people who we're really, really isolated. A lot of my friends are online. I have a few people outside, but
sometimes you have
own things. We do our own things. We do our own things.
Protect your child. There are people that love my children. There are Muslims that love my children and nurture my children, and who my children see as role models, and who help them who help foster love for the deen in them. Those are the people I expose my children to. But honestly, Muslims in general do not have a carte blanche on my children, because I see the damage that can be caused because of it. So I definitely understand why it is that you've decided to take that stance, because I didn't hear the
we're overprotective. We're really, really overprotective, and we keep to ourselves. To be honest, we keep to ourselves.
I mean, it's like you have to create those circles. You just really have to create those circles of protection and nurturing. And nurturing.
Yes.
They have to be nurturing circles, because you have a young Muslim life. You have a young Muslim mind. Okay? And you don't want the toxic messaging from Muslims and non-Muslims alike to
come.
You, especially not Muslims, because it's going to affect their relationship with the law. I mean, there aren't millions of young Muslims on mosques for no reason. Okay, it's not that all of them want to go buck wild and everything like that. It can be a very toxic environment for a young Muslim, period. But especially multi-ethnic, multiracial young Muslims have it really hard, and parents need to kind of take a lot of time to make sure that their children are protected, because Muslims don't know better. And just trying to
a lot, like a majority of Muslims are just Muslim by name. They're not Muslim because they control a lot of Islam. That's what I think.
Well, Jazakallah, Papatia, I really appreciate this. And the Doctor Nurse is coming out with the next Doctor Nurse is coming out.
Oh yes, the Doctor Nurse is coming out. March 31st, 2018, inshallah. It's very a rebel book. I'm a rebel anyway, so.
You've been being a rebel? I mean, yeah, because your romance. It's a groundbreaking Muslim romance out there. You kind of you gave me the guts.
Go for it, girl. I like your stuff already.
Go for it, and kind of like, I don't know. We'll see whether or not people are ready for it.
Yeah, they're not ready, but we're gonna have to force it on them.
We're gonna find out. We're gonna find out.
Yeah, we're gonna find out, inshallah.
Hopefully, come out, we can come and talk again about layers of sectarianism.
Thank you. I really appreciate your input. Okay. Assalamu alaikum.
And thank you. Okay, now it's time to go, because I got this little one here. All right. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for joining us for NbA Muslims, inshallah, and look out for the next one. Assalamu alaikum.